Detective Reyes said the words that froze my blood. Until we find this buyer, you're our prime suspect. That's when I realized someone out there was committing violent crimes in my old car, and they wanted me to go down for all of it. I sold my old red Honda Civic on a Wednesday afternoon. It wasn't worth much, just a tired, sun-faded thing that rattled whenever I took a right turn too quickly. But $800 cash felt fair, and at 49, with a daughter in high school and bills always waiting, I didn't have the luxury to be sentimental. The buyer called himself Tyrell Briggs. Quiet, soft-spoken, polite in a way that didn't match the tattoo creeping up the side of his neck. He didn't haggle, didn't ask many questions. He just stared at the car with an intensity that should have bothered me more than it did. I was distracted during the sale. My daughter, Lily, was gathering her school things behind me. My phone kept buzzing from work, and Tyrell used those distractions, those few seconds where I wasn't watching, to photograph my insurance card and registration slip as they sat on the dashboard. I didn't notice I should have. We shook hands. He tucked the cash into my palm, thanked me, and drove away without looking back. It felt like any ordinary sale. I tossed the empty key ring into the trash and didn't think about that car again. 2 weeks passed. Then, at exactly 6:12 a.m. on a Tuesday, someone pounded on my front door so violently the entire hallway shook. I opened it half asleep. 2 officers stood there, serious faces, hands resting near their holsters. "Mr. Mercer," one said, "you need to come with us." No explanation, no small talk, just a command wrapped in authority. They guided me into the back of the cruiser, not cuffed but not free either. My stomach turned cold. When we reached the station, they led me into a small room with a metal table and a camera in the corner. A detective entered, a sharp-eyed woman named Reyes, and dropped a folder in front of me. "We're going to ask you some questions," she said. "First, I need to read you your rights." That sentence, Miranda rights, it felt like an earthquake under my chair. After she finished, she opened the folder. Then she slid a photograph across the table, a blurry still from a traffic cam, a red Honda Civic, my red Honda Civic, my expired plates, same dent in the front bumper, same cheap aftermarket rims. The timestamp was from the night before. "Mr. Mercer," Reyes said slowly, "were you driving this vehicle on Route 47 around 11:30 p.m.? My mouth went dry. "No," I said. "No, I sold that car 2 weeks ago." Reyes stared like she'd heard every lie in the world and ranked mine in the top 10. "To whom?" "A man, Tyrell Briggs, paid cash. I signed the car over. He drove off." "Do you have a bill of sale?" "I know." "He didn't give me one. I just filled out the release of liability online." Reyes exchanged a look with the other officer in the room. "We checked," she said. "There's no record of that form being filed. Nothing was submitted. The system shows you as the legal owner. As of right now, this vehicle still belongs to you." I felt something inside my chest drop like a stone into water. That's not possible," I whispered. "I did it. I remember doing it." "Memory isn't evidence," Reyes replied. She slid another photo across the table, this one from a different angle. The driver of the Civic looked about my size, broad shoulders, short hair, similar build. Just enough resemblance to raise suspicion. Reyes leaned forward. "You understand why you're here," she said. "We're trying to figure out whether you're lying, covering for someone, or whether you're telling the truth and someone is using your vehicle to commit crimes." I swallowed hard. "What crime?" I asked. "Hit and run," she said. "Victim survived, but witnesses reported the car fleeing at high speed. Same plates, same model, same color." My heart thudded painfully in my chest. "I didn't do that, I swear. I don't even have access to that car." Reyes didn't blink. "Then why," she said, "is the car still tied to your name, to your insurance, to your address?" I had no answer, only confusion that felt like drowning. The interrogation lasted another hour, question after question, everyone framed like I was lying. When they finally let me go, Reyes stopped me at the door. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "until we find this Tyrell, you remain our primary person of interest." The word primary hit harder than the rest. I walked out of the station in a fog, barely feeling the cold morning air. How had this happened? How did a simple car sale turn into an investigation where I was the suspect? As I reached my car, something tightened in my chest. If Tyrell never filed the transfer, if the DMV never processed it, if the plates were still mine, Then Tyrell hadn't just bought my old Civic. He bought my identity, my liability, my freedom. I whispered into the empty parking lot, who the hell did I sell my car to, and why did he never change the plates? The moment I left the police station, I knew I couldn't wait for them to find answers. Detectives move at the speed of procedure. But my life, my job, my daughter, my name, was hanging over an open flame. I called Paula Knox, a paralegal who handled civil cases at my old attorney's office. She wasn't a full-fledged investigator, but she was cheap, quick, and brutally smart. If anyone could untangle a mistake like this, it was her. She agreed to meet me that afternoon in a corner booth at a quiet cafe, laptop open, hair tied back, eyes sharp as needles. "Tell me everything," she said. I walked her through the sale, Tyrell's voice, his rush, my distractions. The lack of a bill of sale, and the interrogation that morning. When I mentioned his name, Tyrell Briggs, Paula started typing, fast and surgically precise. After a few minutes she stopped. "There's no one by that name matching the details you gave me," she said. "Not in the DMV database, not in county records, not in criminal databases, not in employment networks. Nothing." "Maybe you spelled it wrong," I said. She gave me a flat stare. "Daniel, I don't misspell things." The words felt like ice water down my back. "If this man used a fake name," Paula continued, "then the fact he photographed your documents during the sale wasn't an accident. It was deliberate." She believed he intentionally planned to keep the car legally tied to me. The thought made my stomach turn. Paula tapped her keyboard again. "I did find an address, though," she said. "It's on the scrap you said he wrote on, right?" I nodded. "Then go check it," she said. "Call me the moment you get there." I drove across town. The neighborhood started clean, then roughened street by street, broken streetlights, boarded windows, grass growing up through cracked sidewalks. The address was a one-story house with peeling paint and plywood over the front windows. Not a home, a husk. Empty, abandoned. I knocked anyway. No answer. I tried peeking through a gap in the boards. Dust, rot, old furniture. Nothing that suggested anyone had lived here in years. As I walked back toward my car, a voice called out from the porch next door. "You looking for someone?" A middle-aged man in a torn flannel shirt, cautious eyes. "Yeah," I said. "Red Honda buyer, saw a car like mine around here." He scratched his chin, thinking. "Seen a red Honda on this street a few nights. Not every night, just random." My heart kicked. "Same plates?" I asked too quickly. He shrugged. "Didn't look that close. Different drivers, though, a couple of them. One guy shaved his head, another wore a hoodie. Multiple drivers, same car, coming back to the same area, almost like a stash location." "Do you remember when you last saw it?" I asked. "2 nights ago," he said. "Parked right over there by that streetlight. Didn't stay long." I thanked him and returned to my car with a knot in my gut. Why would a stolen, unregistered, crime-linked vehicle circle back here? Unless the area meant something to the people using it. I drove home that evening with my nerves stretched thin. Around 9:30, while taking the trash out, I froze on my front lawn. The Civic, my Civic, rolling slowly past my house. Same dented bumper, same faded paint, same expired plates, but not the same driver. A young man with a shaved head gripped the wheel, eyes forward, not even glancing at me. I dropped the trash bag, ran for my car keys, tried to follow, but he was fast, too fast. By the time I turned the corner, the Civic had vanished into the dark, as if swallowed by the night itself. I sat in my driveway long after midnight, wondering how deep this hole went, and how far someone was willing to drag me down into it. The next morning before sunrise, my phone rang. Detective Ray's. Her voice was harder than yesterday. "Mr. Mercer, your car was just used in a violent convenience store assault. We need you back at the station." Immediately, the police station felt colder the second time. Less like a place for answers and more like a funnel where every path narrowed toward suspicion. Detective Ray's didn't waste a second. She led me straight back into the same interrogation room, same camera, same metal table. Only this time the energy was different. She placed a thick folder on the table, a much thicker one than before. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "your car was used in a burglary and violent assault at a convenience store on Eastwood Avenue at 1:14 a.m. I felt the blood drain from my face. "The clerk survived," she continued. "He's in surgery, but witnesses saw a red Honda fleeing the scene, Same plates, same bumper damage, same model. The driver matched your build. I didn't speak. I couldn't. Two officers entered the room. They wore gloves. "Stand up," one said. They searched me, my pockets, my shoes, my jacket, even my hairline. Then they left and returned with a warrant. "Mr. Mercer," Reyes said, "we need to search your home." I wanted to protest, wanted to shout that they were chasing the wrong man, the wrong life. But what could I do? They drove me back to my house in silence. Lily's shoes were still by the door. Her homework was still on the dining table. The officers stepped around those things the way surgeons move around organs. Drawers opened, closets checked, lights turned on and off. They didn't find anything. Of course they didn't. Reyes looked frustrated, like the truth was refusing to cooperate with her gut. Back at the station, she pushed a stack of papers toward me. "Your employer confirmed your shift yesterday," she said. "Security footage shows you clocked out at 11:57 p.m. That clears me," I said. "It gives you 3 minutes," she replied. 3 minutes to get in a car, drive out of frame, and switch vehicles." The logic twisted around my throat like a rope. "I didn't do this," I said quietly. Reyes watched me for a long time. Finally, she stood up. "For now, you're being released on recognizance, but don't mistake that for freedom. Until we find this buyer, you're our strongest lead." I walked out of the station feeling like I had a target painted on my back. When I got home, Lily was still awake. She looked at my face and knew something was wrong. "Dad, are you in trouble?" I told her no. She didn't believe me. Kids see through lies sharper than adults do. After she went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table staring at my phone. There was only one person I trusted to help me now, Paula. I called her. Voicemail. Tried again. Voicemail. Finally, at midnight, she called back. Her voice was frantic, whispering like she was hiding. "Daniel, listen." I traced the alias. The burner phone, the neighborhood, the property records, it's all connected. This guy, he's not who he says he is, not even close. "What did you find?" I asked. "I'm sending you an address. I'm close to something big, but Daniel, lock your doors. Don't let anyone in, and whatever you do." A loud crash cut her off. Glass shattering, a thud, then silence. "Paula," I shouted into the phone. Nothing. I drove to her office, breaking speed limits I'd never dared break in my life. Her door was hanging open, one hinge broken, the lights flickering, her desk overturned, papers everywhere. Her laptop was still open on the floor. On the screen was a half-loaded web page, a mugshot, a name partially visible, Elias Briggs. My pulse hammered in my ears. This wasn't just a wrong name. This was a dangerous man, a ghost with a record, and Paula had found him. In the quiet wreckage of her office, something moved in the dark hallway, a shadow, quick, silent. I spun around, heart pounding, but the hallway was empty. Whoever had come for Paula might now be coming for me. The half-loaded webpage on Paula's laptop felt like a lifeline and a noose at the same time. A blurry mugshot. A name frozen mid-refresh. Elias Briggs, not Tyrol, not a random buyer. A man with a past dark enough for the internet to choke on. I snapped a photo of the screen, grabbed the laptop, and walked backward out of Paula's office, listening for footsteps that didn't come. My nerves were stretched so tight they felt like wires ready to snap. Outside, the parking lot was empty except for a flickering streetlight and my reflection staring back from my car window. I locked the doors before the engine even started. Paula was gone. Her office was trashed. Her last words were a warning. I drove straight to my friend Jake's apartment, a tech guy who lived off energy drinks and code. He took one look at the mugshot on my phone and powered up his custom-built tower like he was prepping for war. "This page didn't finish loading," I said. "Can you get the rest of it?" Jake smirked, fingers cracking. "Watch me." It took him 30 minutes. 30 minutes of tapping, swearing, bypassing dead links and archived files. Finally, the full page appeared. Elias Briggs, fugitive. Escaped custody 5 years ago. Suspected in VIN swapping, identity theft, auto rings, armed robbery. Considered dangerous. My throat tightened. Jake pointed to a line near the bottom. "Aliases," he said. "Lots of them." And there it was. Tyrol Briggs, an alias Elias had used in 2 states. Everything Paula found had started to connect. Everything she said over the phone, she had gotten close. Too close. On the drive home, every headlight behind me felt like a threat. Every shadow on the sidewalk looked like it was watching. When I pulled into my neighborhood, something caught my eye down the block. The Civic, parked under a streetlight like it belonged there. Engine off, windows dark. I stayed in my car, watching. A man stepped out from the driver's side. The shaved head was unmistakable, Nate. Young, wiry, efficient in the way people are when they've lived too long on the wrong side of danger. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did and didn't care. He walked to the front of the Civic, pulled something from his pocket. Metal glinted under the light. With a pocket tool, he pried the fake VIN plate out from under the dash, clean, practiced, precise. Then he walked across the street and dropped it on the curb in front of my house. It wasn't symbolic. It wasn't about paper. It was the real VIN, the clone, the physical evidence tying every crime back to my registered identity. He wasn't burning anything useless. He was sending a message. You're already in this with us, whether you like it or not. And then he disappeared into the night, leaving the Civic behind like a dead body. When I finally got out and approached the fake VIN plate, my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The police would find it, and they'd think I planted it. A simple car sale had officially become a trap I couldn't climb out of. The deeper I got, the more one truth became clear. Elias wasn't just using my car. He was using me. By the next morning, I felt like my life was turning into a maze where every path led to a dead end or a deeper trap. The fake VIN plate was still sitting on the curb where Nate had dropped it. I didn't touch it. I didn't want my prints anywhere near it, but someone would eventually see it, and I knew exactly what Detective Reyes would assume when she did. I needed answers before the police found anything else that pointed at me. Paula's notes had listed a burner phone ping near an auto parts yard on the industrial side of town. If Elias and Nate were running a ghost car operation, someone had to be supplying them with junk vehicles and VIN tags. I drove out there late morning. The place looked like a metal graveyard, rusted hoods sticking out of mud, piles of axles, rows of cars missing doors like open wounds. A guy in grease-stained coveralls stepped out of a garage bay, wiping his hands on a cloth. "You lost?" he asked without smiling. "I'm looking for someone," I said. "Guy named Tyrell, or Elias, or Briggs. Bought a red Honda Civic a few weeks ago." He stiffened. Just a small, almost invisible reaction, but I caught it. "Never heard of him," he said too quickly. "I think you have." He looked over my shoulder, scanning the yard like someone was watching us. Then he sighed and motioned me inside the garage. The air smelled like oil and old rubber. He shut the door behind us. "Listen," he said quietly, "I don't want trouble. I don't want anyone coming after me. I don't know the guy's real name, but he's bought cars here before. Junkers, no paperwork, cash only. He strips them, swaps plates, flips VINs. Some people run drugs. Some run guns. He runs ghosts." "Ghosts?" I asked. "Ghost cars," he said. "Vehicles that legally belong to someone else. They do the crimes, someone innocent gets blamed, and the real crew disappears." My stomach twisted. "That Civic," I said. "What did he use it for?" The mechanic swallowed hard. "I heard it was for a special job, something personal, something messy." Before I could ask more, he stepped back, eyes darting toward the garage door like a rabbit smelling a wolf. "You didn't hear any of this from me," he whispered. "Now get out." I reached for his arm. "Wait, what job? What did he do with my car?" He yanked away as if my touch burned him. Then I heard it. Sirens, not distant, close. Coming fast. The mechanic's face changed instantly. Fear, then guilt. "You called them," I said, disbelief flooding me. "I can't be involved in this," he hissed. "You show up asking questions. They think I'm cooperating." I panicked. He bolted through a side door before I could say another word. I ran out the back of the garage, weaving between car frames and rusted trucks. The sirens grew louder, closer. If they found me here, alone, trespassing, asking about a fugitive, they'd think I was part of the operation. Or worse, the one running it. I cleared the yard, sprinted across a drainage ditch, and didn't stop until I reached my car. My phone buzzed, unknown number. One photo, Lily, my daughter stepping onto her school bus that morning. The angle was close, too close. Then the text, "Stop digging." My chest went cold. My hands shook as I dialed the school. Then my sister, arranging for Lily to be picked up, taken away, kept out of sight. I tried tracing the number through a basic app, nothing. Then through an online lookup, nothing. A burned phone. A ghost network. the same kind of digital shadows Elias lived inside. Every step I took toward the truth seemed to drag danger closer to the one person I couldn't afford to lose. And now he knew exactly where she lived, where she studied, where she breathed. The message wasn't a warning, it was a promise. I barely slept that night. Every noise made me think someone was outside. Every shadow looked like a threat waiting for the right moment to step forward. I kept checking my phone for updates from my sister. Lily was safe, asleep, unaware of the danger hovering over us. That was the only thing keeping me from falling apart completely. By mid-morning, I started planning my next move. If Elias knew where my daughter went to school, he knew everything. My address, my schedule, my habits. He was tightening a noose around me, one loop at a time. I was sitting at the kitchen table when a soft knock tapped against the door, not a pounding like the police, not the kind of knock a criminal would make either. I approached cautiously, checking the peephole, my breath caught. Paula, alive, barely. Her hair was matted with dried blood, one eye was bruised. She held her ribs when she breathed, but she was standing. I pulled her inside and locked the door. "What happened?" I whispered. She sank into a chair, shaking from exhaustion and pain. "They didn't want to kill me," she said. "They wanted what I found." "What did you find?" She reached into her jacket and pulled out a folded slip of paper, crumpled, stained like she'd fought to keep it. "A contact," she said, "a number scribbled on an old invoice. Belonged to a mechanic who knew Elias. I think he's the one who supplies the junkers and the VIN plates." My chest tightened. That same mechanic just sold me out. "He called the cops on me." Paula flinched, not from surprise but from recognition. "He's terrified of Elias," she said. "But that's not the important part. The important part is who attacked me." She leaned forward, voice low. "It wasn't Elias. It was the younger guy, the shaved head, Nate." The name hit me like a weight. "He followed me," she said, "cornered me in my office, took my USB drive, took my notes. I played dead when he slammed me onto the floor. He thought I was unconscious. That's how I got away." I felt sick. "Why go after you?" "Because I found something critical," she whispered. "Nate isn't Elias' partner anymore." "What do you mean?" "He's against him. Nate wants Elias gone. He's been sabotaging the operation. He stole your Civic to force a confrontation." I stared at her, the pieces shifting into place. "Nate dropped the fake VIN at my house," I said. "Why would he do that?" "To send you a message," Paula said. "To push you, to corner Elias." I sank into the chair across from her. "So what do we do now?" Paula took a shaky breath. "We set a trap. Nate wants Elias exposed. You want your name cleared, and Elias wants to shut both of you up." I exhaled slowly. The weight of the situation felt crushing. "What kind of trap?" She slid her phone across the table. "You're going to text Elias," she said. "Tell him you want to meet. Tell him you want to buy the Civic back. Tell him you'll pay cash to make this all go away." My pulse hammered. "He'll kill me." "He won't," Paula said, "because he needs to know what you know. And the police. I've already spoken to someone off the record," she said. "They'll be positioned nearby, not too close. Not too far." My hands trembled as I typed the message, every word feeling like a countdown. "We need to talk. I want the car back. Cash, face to face." Paula watched the screen with me. A reply came almost instantly. "Midnight. Old freight yard. Come alone." My mouth went dry. Paula whispered, "It's starting." Midnight arrived like a sentence being carried out. The old freight yard sat on the edge of town, long abandoned, the steel tracks eaten by rust and weeds. Fog rolled over the cracked pavement in low, slow waves, swallowing sound and light. It felt like stepping into someone else's nightmare, except every part of it belonged to me now. Paula parked 2 blocks away, exactly as planned. Nate had promised to stay hidden until he saw Elias. But criminals don't promise, they wait, they calculate, they survive. I stood alone under a flickering light that buzzed like an electric warning. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Every few seconds I checked the shadows between the freight crates. Anything could be hiding there. Anyone. Then I heard it, the low growl of an engine rolling in slow, too slow. The Civic appeared through the fog like a ghost returning to the scene of its crimes. The faded paint looked darker in the dim light, as if it had absorbed the sins it had carried. The car stopped 10 feet from me. The driver's door opened with a metallic creak. Elias Briggs stepped out, older than I expected, scarred, eyes sharp and cold like a man who had forgotten what compassion felt like. He didn't blink, he didn't look confused or angry, he looked amused. "You've been busy," he said softly. My throat tightened. "I want my car back," he smiled, predatory. "Daniel, you don't want the car. You want your life back." He circled me slowly like he was evaluating a purchase. "You should have just walked away from all this, sold the car, forgotten it, simple." "You turned it into a weapon," I said. He chuckled. "I turned you into a shield. A clean middle-aged nobody with a spotless record and a routine life, perfect for blame, perfect to disappear behind." My stomach twisted. He'd chosen me long before I realized something was wrong. "You never intended to transfer the registration," I said. "Of course not," he replied. "You were the liability I needed." A clang echoed from the darkness. Elias turned sharply, eyes narrowing. Nate stepped out of the shadows, face hard, jaw tight, gun raised. "You should have stayed gone," Nate said. Elias exhaled slowly, almost laughing. "So the dog returns." Nate fired a warning shot into the metal container behind us. The sound tore through the yard like thunder. Chaos ignited instantly. Elias lunged toward me, grabbing a rusted metal rod from the ground. Nate fired again but hit the freight crate as Elias zigzagged toward us. I stumbled backward. The rod swung past my face, close enough to feel the air split. A second figure emerged, Paula, charging in from the side. She slammed into Elias with her shoulder, knocking him off balance. He turned, swinging the rod, striking her across the ribs. She collapsed but kept breathing. Nate advanced, gun steady. Elias grabbed him by the wrist, twisting violently. The gun clattered to the concrete. They struggled, brutal and fast, two men used to fighting for their survival. Nate dropped to a knee, wheezing from a punch to the gut. Elias lifted the rod high. I didn't think, I didn't plan. I grabbed the fallen rod with both hands and swung. The impact shuddered up my arms. Elias crumpled, stunned but alive. Paula rolled onto her side and pressed a button on her phone. "Now," she whispered. Red and blue lights cut through the fog. Police vehicles poured into the yard. Officers surrounded Elias, shouting commands, weapons drawn. He looked up at me, blood on his forehead, hatred simmering behind his eyes. "You think this ends with me?" he rasped. They dragged him away, cuffed and beaten. Nate sat on the ground, clutching his ribs, exhausted but alive. Paula leaned against a crate, breathless. And I stood in the middle of the freight yard, shaking, the metal rod still in my hand, finally understanding how deep the darkness had gone. Here is Act 8 fully expanded, 400–500 words, bringing the story to a complete, satisfying, and emotionally grounded conclusion. Clean pacing, short paragraphs, and a calm descent after the chaos. The freight yard felt different once Elias was gone. Quieter but not peaceful, more like the echo after an explosion, when everything is still vibrating but nothing is falling anymore. The officers questioned all three of us separately. Paula handed over every file she had collected: VIN photos, burner phone traces, alias cross-references, mechanic receipts, timestamps, everything that proved the truth behind Elias' operation. Nate didn't run. He didn't fight. He sat on the concrete, exhausted, answering questions with a clarity that surprised even the detectives. He wasn't a hero, far from it, but he'd helped bring down a man even worse than himself. At dawn, Detective Reyes approached me outside the taped-off perimeter. Her expression was different, not suspicious, not hostile, just tired. "Mr. Mercer," she said, "you're cleared." The words didn't sink in at first. Cleared, free, finally separated from the crimes tied to that car, those plates, that fugitive. Reyes continued. "Briggs kept everything. Records, logs, burner phones. Your name was never on his internal lists. You weren't part of the operation. You were a shield, just like you said." I exhaled shakily. "What happens to the car?" I asked. "It's evidence," Reyes said. "But the plates are being permanently voided. The VIN's contaminated. It'll be processed for dismantling." "Good. Let it be crushed into something unrecognizable, something harmless." By mid-morning, I called my sister to tell her the danger was over. She cried from relief. Lily cried too, but only because she could finally come home. Seeing her walk through the front door was the first moment in weeks where my chest didn't feel like it was clamped in steel. We sat on the couch, lights low, the house finally quiet. "Are you okay now?" she asked. I nodded. "I will be." In the days that followed, life didn't snap back into normal, it eased like a slow sunrise. Detectives wrapped up statements. Paula got medical treatment and promised to retire from side investigations. Nate negotiated a deal for information, leaving the city soon after. A week later, I received an envelope in the mail. Insurance documents. The Civic, officially declared unrecoverable and destroyed, triggered a payout, small, but enough for a down payment on something modest, cleaner, safer. When I went to pick up the new car, the dealer handed me the keys with a smile. I didn't smile back, not because I wasn't grateful, because I now understood how quickly a car, a piece of metal and plastic, could ruin a life. At home, I installed the plates myself, tightening each bolt carefully, double-checking every document, ensuring nothing could tie me to someone else's mistakes ever again. As I closed the trunk, I took a moment to breathe, not the shallow breaths of fear I'd been living on, a real one, long, steady, free. The darkness had passed, my name was clear, my daughter was safe. And for the first time in weeks, the world felt like mine again.